Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to everyone around the world to our fantastic launch today of Swatchbook. I'd just like to remind everybody how Livestorm works. On the top right of your screen, there's a little arrow. If you press the arrow, you can see chat and questions. The chat is for the general chat while we are catching up. And the questions are actually for legitimate questions to be asked about the actual content of the webinar. So I think we've got 160 people online now, so we will go ahead and start. I'd like to welcome everyone from around the world. We have people, we have partners and salespeople from New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Dubai, Greece, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, Sri Lanka, and the United States. So welcome to all of you. We also have some of our agents joining us today from Belgium, India, the UK, Germany, Italy, Finland, and Sweden. So welcome all of you. Now, today is a very special day that will probably go down in history in the fabric business, because today we introduce to all of you Swatchbook. Swatchbook is going to be a solution for samples that doesn't exist in the market today. So today there are thousands and thousands of, millions of SKUs. There is so much product in the market. It is becoming, number one, too expensive. Number two, too time intensive to distribute all those samples. It's just actually physically not possible to put all these samples in front of the customers. But through our collaboration with Swatchbook, and I'll introduce the founders to you in a minute, we have managed to take digital materials and present it to everybody in a very concise, easy to use, and intuitive way. So this is going to be something that is going to really revolutionize the fabric business. There is not one company out there in the world today who are able right now to offer anything like this. This is the cutting edge of innovation in the fabric business. So there we've got a lot of content and a lot of presentation to do to you for you this morning. So I would just like to welcome and introduce you to Yazan Malkosh, who is the founder and CEO of Swatchbook. He'll give a little wave. And before you take over, Yazan, I'd just like to just give you a little bit of history that we met Yazan over a year ago. We started a good collaboration of discussions with him, and that led us into this joint venture where Yazan, who was primarily using his product for product development within the apparel trade and the fashion trade, has done this joint venture with us, and Bru will do it exclusively within the interior furnishings trade. Don't we, Yazan? And I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you everybody for that lovely introduction. Certainly, I'm super excited to be here. As Gary said, we met with Brew a year ago, and I think things just clicked. We were looking for partners in that space. We certainly believed our technology was going to be revolutionary, but technology can only go so far without the right partners. And we believe that Brew is the right partner, along with its network of partners and customers and clients that they're dealing with. I'll do a little short introduction about Swatchbook, who we are, and we'll be more happy to answer any questions towards the end. So what's Swatchbook? For us, our vision of Swatchbook is it's the new home of materials. As you can see here, we have a bunch of clients primarily in the apparel fashion world. My background is a bit odd. How do we get there? My background is a combination of microbiologist and architect. So I do come a little bit from your world in terms of the interior design and building design and furnishings in that space, but I also have some odd science background, but it led me to where I am today, which is a lot of visualization in 3D. To give you a little bit of context, how do we start with digitizing fabric, or why? It really starts to talk about how products need to be developed. And in the fashion world, there's a revolution going on today where you are moving away from sample creation, physical sample creation, to virtual sample creation. And that starts off with digitizing the body, digitizing the background, digitizing the obviously the garments and the fabrics. Everything that you're seeing here is completely CG. That's a model. She's been scanned, then been outfitted with CG clothing, CG being computer graphics, and even the background, the sheets, the bed sheets, the ground, everything is completely computer created. This is where the fashion industry is headed. Obviously, architecture have had it, and I think home goods is only going to grow more and more in that direction. So it's completely moving to a virtual process, and there's a reason for that, because the industry fundamentally is moving from a design, make, sell to a design, sell, and then make from a physical perspective. If we wanted to consolidate, what is the vision of Swatchbook? It's if you make products, you need materials. If you need materials, you come to Swatchbook. That's fundamentally what we're trying to provide. And certainly our focus right now are on those industries that we had mentioned before, which are fashion-related apparel, footwear, accessories, and obviously with the help of Brew and its network of partners, the home goods space. It's a place where you can go and manage and source materials in a single cloud-based platform. It's a SaaS-based model, so software as a service. So what are we trying to solve fundamentally? There's a lot of challenges in our industry, and I think some of them also seep over to the industry of the home goods space, but mostly it's in slow and manual processes, right? Those processes delay decision-making, slow physical sample creation, things of that nature, a disconnection with the supply chain, in terms of the supply chain is really not in sync with the brands, at least on the fashion space, and unforeseen disruptions. And today it's COVID, and I'd like to kind of elaborate about what's happening today because of it. It's not like COVID broke the supply chain, but it exposed a broken supply chain. With the travel bans that were happening, obviously no material shows, no on-site visits, slashed budgets, higher workload, reduced workforces. That's all leading to a lot of just negative elements that are happening and challenges that are happening, at least in the fashion space that we saw. And everybody obviously is working from home, and that meant a supplier that used to send a physical sample book, maybe a copy or two to headquarters, now has to send 20, 30, in certain cases with certain design brands, up to 50 and 100 copies to all these designers working from home. And that fundamentally is just not acceptable. They can't do it in terms of cost, in terms of time, and it's just cumbersome. They just can't track all of this. As Gary was talking earlier, that whole sample process is getting outdated, and with the additional number of SKUs that are in the market and all these challenges, it's simply becoming impossible to handle. Obviously, increased lead times, longer shipping times, as I'm sure you guys have seen this. That means I have to wait longer for my samples to come through. And then finally, the last one, which is brands moving over to digital, but suppliers lagging behind, meant that rift between the digital rift between suppliers and brands is growing even more in that space. So it was happening before COVID, and COVID just basically amplified all of that. And for the most part, that current process for them looks something like this: a spreadsheet, mostly text data, non-visual, non-engaging. And as you guys know, when you're talking to designers, they're very visual, and you need a lot more to convince them whether this is going to be something that they can utilize. These outdated digital tools, I say digital because obviously it's on a computer. A spreadsheet is a digital tool. They're just outdated. I have to email, I have to go back. Yes, that spreadsheet. No, that's an outdated spreadsheet. Here, have a brand new one right there. And that process of, I like the material, I think, send it over. I like the physical sample swatch. Let's make a sample run. I like the sample run, but I don't like the print. I need it bigger, smaller, different color. There's a reason why these product calendars are 18 to 24 months. And unfortunately, they simply can't make do with those anymore. They have to be a lot more responsive to the market needs and align with what's happening in the market versus them forecasting what's going to happen 2 years from now. This could have worked 50 years ago. It is not working today. And what we're trying to provide is a faster to market solution that gives you more insight into your data. You understand a lot more about what's being used, what's being utilized as a supplier, not just as a brand. And moving over to what we call a 3D e-commerce future. This is happening. It's already happening today. It's happening at different stages. Certain brands have their products in 3D digital, meaning AR, augmented reality, or on the web viewers. And this is happening for consumers. This is happening for retailers or resellers. This is also happening for designers at different stages for different brands. But overall, at Swatchbook, this is what we're fundamentally providing to our clients. And to us, that can be summarized with basically digitizing the supply chain, right? Because for us, it's a single source of truth. It should start at the supplier level. This is fundamental to making this a success in the future. We think of this as a live link to your supplier, as a designer, as a customer. And that single source of digital truth, it's connected to the physical sample, but it also goes into what we call PLM, which is product lifecycle management, the fancy term for managing your assets and your products, ultimately into manufacturing, ultimately into the product, but then also can be used for visualization, marketing shots, e-commerce. There's companies out there that are doing placement of products into games, into movies. And why wouldn't that come all the way back to the fabric supplier? They're utilizing that material both physically and digitally. And obviously, this is a very big thing today, is sustainability tracking. Because this is a live link into the data, that means I can go back to the supplier and say, hey, I'm looking for additional sustainability tracking at the yarn level, for example. Once they put that in there, anybody utilizing that material can then get all that data back into their design process. Again, for us, this is the building blocks for what's going to happen next. We're not building something for yesterday. We're building something for the next 5 to 10 years. And it's going to be revolutionizing the entire design process. And from a sustainability perspective, it just echoes everything else. I create less samples, and it's not just the samples and the product and the waste that goes into this, which is pretty significant. But people, it's time sustainability. People are not wasting their time waiting. They're not wasting their time creating things without use in terms of the actual products themselves. These are samples of what these digitized materials look like. For most people, they can't distinguish this from a product shot, a product photography shot. So for a designer to come and say, yeah, you know what, I do think that fabric works for my product, and I do want to make a decision to get this into a physical sample run or a production run. And I can do that simply by looking at these digitized renders. So these are all completely computer generated. But they bring a lot of character to that material, and a lot of character, obviously, more importantly to the designer, to their own product. And obviously, we've talked about doing apparel, accessories, footwear, all of that being covered with these samples that you see, which are gorgeous. And obviously, we're working with Bru and bringing their amazing library of materials in digitized form as well. To kind of wrap up the achievements for what we've been able to accomplish for our current supply chain in the fashion space, We have around 30,000 materials digitized for our clients. We're saving trees. You can basically save, for every 6 virtual samples, we are saving a single tree. Our platform doesn't rely on a season. It doesn't rely on a show or a time zone. It's instant access all the time. Obviously, we've talked about some of the ROI elements, but we've saved over $20 million in travel expenses and sample creation expenses. Once you digitize the sample, you can then share it with as many people as you want, versus when you make a physical sample, I have to make sure that there's enough that I can cut and make all these and send them out. Our time reductions are just insane. Once you get this thing digitized, that means I can do a color refresh much quicker. I can share new colors that I haven't done before. The customer can get engaged in that development as well. And the waste reduction is very, very limited. Per brand, when we looked at how many materials are being used by the brands, every brand in our system is basically saving 100,000 trees. That may not seem a lot, but when you add this up, and we're still at the beginning, this is going to make a huge impact on the industry. Obviously, with Brew at the forefront for the home goods, we think that number is going to be astronomical. Yes, and I used astronomical in this presentation, which is pretty cool. What's the competitive advantage of using something like Swatchbook? So first of all, we're the first one on the market, and we've got the largest and best quality, truly digitized material marketplace. There isn't anything out there that can compete with what we have, not just from a technology perspective, but what we fundamentally believe is the winning formula is a user experience, the best user experience that we can get. It's intuitive, it's visual, we integrate, so we're agnostic and we integrate with other systems, other 3D systems, other 2D systems that are used by designers, because we know that Swatchbook is just one element of the design process. And what we're trying to provide is to make sure that as the data moves from one element to another, it's as seamless as possible. It's also mobile-based, so you get this on the mobile apps. We believe in that single source of truth strategy. We believe in engaging with the suppliers and having them at the forefront, being right there with the design and community and the clients, and obviously having more design insights into their own materials and what the design community is using. And with Brew, we believe we're going to do amazing things. This is just the starting point, and you guys are going to be blown away with all these ideas that we're going to be executing on in the next years to come, but fundamentally changing the industry and changing that alongside you, because we need your support, obviously, to get all of that done. And
Okay, Yazan, thank you very much. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everybody. That was a great presentation, Yazan. We really enjoyed the collaboration so far. You and your team are awesome, and we're really looking forward to all the new things coming. So, as we said, we met Yazan and his team a year ago, and through that time, we built up a good working relationship. And while the presentation that Yazan has just given us is related to the primary use case of Swatchbook, when we started to look under the hood of Swatchbook at Brew, we discovered that even though the use case is slightly different, all the functions and features were there that we need to service our industry. So that was great for us. So I'm going to start today with a couple of comments on why we have chosen Swatchbook. Apart from the great relationship we have built up with the team and the alignment on our vision of how we all see the future, we chose Swatchbook because it's a great digital sampling solution, which we'll use alongside physical samples to help and support our current business and also to be innovators in our industry. Gary gave a great introduction that we are at the cutting edge of visualization in our industry. We are the first ones out there with such a significant offering of digital materials that can be visualized, and having platforms such as Swatchbook to deliver the content. So basically, what is Swatchbook? It's a digital sample platform for fabrics. As Yazan was pre-hyping, there's a lot of exciting things that are going to be coming in Swatchbook in the future. This is just the beginning. So what you see now is not where we stop, and that's really exciting. Brew and our partners, we have it exclusive for the furnishing industry, and we will be really driving it into the space. one of the most important things when we started to discuss with Swatchbook, and this shows the overall alignment we had, the Swatchbook platform was completely plug and play and compatible with our digital material file structures that we have chosen 3 years ago. So that was, call it a lucky coincidence or good research on both sides in what the best formats would be. But that made this whole process really, really easy, as our digital material studies of 3 years ago were completely compatible with each other. Without that, this would have been a much more difficult opportunity to integrate Swatchbook. They have a great user experience. It's a professional tool, I'd like to say. It's not an app that a consumer downloads for the weather or something like that. Users have to learn how to use the app, how to navigate. It's a professional visualization tool used for professionals, and we got to look at it that way, and it's not a consumer application. And within the application, it has all the 3D modeling and augmented reality functions that are great to see. So we'd like to go on at this point to say, well, what are the challenges for fabric distribution? This is all relative to Swatchbook, because while there's all different use cases, and as we saw in Yazan's presentation, things like sustainability and cost reduction and everything else are, let's say, the benefits that you get, the indirect benefits. This is not the reasons why we are going for Swatchbook, but those spin-offs are really fantastic advantages of a product like this. And when I saw the slides from Yazan, I was actually amazed at how much cost savings there also are relative to this, if you actually use it, embrace it, and use it properly. So what are the challenges for fabric distribution? There is an overall increased pressure on digitizing. Digital is at the forefront of everybody's thinking. All industries are being digitized. That's just out there. That's a fact in the business world today. There's a big need to manage the big portfolios of fabrics. We've got 10,000 digital materials. These need to be managed. It needs to be easy for the designers, architects, shops, furniture manufacturers to be able to get access to these fabrics and find them easily. To find these fabrics in 200, 300, 400 books is a much more difficult task than a great digital app. The operational efficiencies, which are actually highlighted previously from Yazan, and to reduce the hassle and overcome limitations of physical samples. This is a really, really good point. Today, if you have a new customer, he doesn't have access to any samples you don't have any stock. Any old collections, which are even good sellers, if you still don't have current sampling, they don't have access to it. With the digital, any new customers, any customers who don't have a sample, with a digital sample, they can have access to your full library. And that's a really powerful point. And again, highlighted by Yazan, the speed to market, how quickly we can get product from production at Brew, for instance, into the interior designers, retail shop, architects' hands. So the core responses from Swatchbook when we look at this is it's 1,000 books in your pocket. So easy and consistent access to all your products. Another huge advantage of the application is close the imagination gap. And that's by actually being able to see the product applied to real products and to visualize a fabric in the end application of a curtain or of a sofa, and actually even see it in augmented reality, see it in your room, see it in the space where somebody's going to consume that product and material. And just-in-time collections is covering the speed to market, which I pre-cooked it. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to really give you an immersive experience where you really see the vision behind Swatchbook, but at the same time, you can experience a demonstration. Yazan might not enjoy somebody else presenting Swatchbook because he's probably at the front end, so now he has to watch a presentation of Swatchbook. For those of you who logged on late, I'm going to first share our blockbuster already with you guys, and then I'll go on to starting a demo. Okay, so there we go. We're now going to go to a demo. This will be, I will share my screen, and for some of you, you will be getting your first look at the Swatchbook application. So now you see your screen in front of me. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough. We can't actually teach you everything it can do in the time we've allotted for this presentation, but the whole aim here is to give you a first look at what Swatchbook can do, and I'm probably only going to just be touching the tip of the iceberg today. When you go under the hood and you see much deeper what's available and what functionality it has, every problem we tried trying to solve to get Swatchbook ready for our partners, all of you out there, most of them we can handle in the functionality already designed. We have to do some, let's say, process, what we call detours, but we still manage to do most of the things we need. And that's a tribute to a very well-designed product. So where we are right now, this is the main collection, what we call your collections, where it's the collection set up as a board where you can scroll through all the different collections you have. These are our different collections. So one of our hangers, color wash, it's a plain in 30-something colors. That is one collection. Sometimes we have 4 patterns as a Da Vinci collection. So these are all grouped in the same way that Bru group our collections that we, or books. So each collection on the board here can be classified as a book. So you're able to scroll through and look at all the different collections. You can also search here for a collection, and then it will bring up, I was searching for casual, it will bring up casual. We can click into the collection, and then it will load up the casual collection into the screen. And as you can all see, you really see the fabric, you see the texture, you see the yarns. So it's a really great experience. And in our opinion, this is one of the best experiences we've seen, or it is the best experience we've seen in how you can visualize the fabric itself. And then when you go deeper into it, you can visualize other things. So this is a casual collection. We can scroll down, we can look at all the different colors, and you really see the true aspects of the fabric. I'd like to say that when you look at this through this webinar, you're not seeing the true definition of color that you'll see on your computer when you look at it yourself, because you do lose some resolution through the webinar. But when you actually get exposure to this, you'll see you really get that beautiful experience of the product itself. We are looking at now in what we call the roll view. We can also change it to the thumbnail view, where we have these thumbnails of the actual product to be able to see the full color line like it is. So it's really a fantastic experience. It has all different types of functionality. So if we want to add something to what we call our favorites, we just can click over here, and immediately that product is added to your favorites folder. So there's all this brilliant functionality. And then there's a third view, which is a list view, which also contains different information and functionalities you can do. So if we go back to the product view and we go back to our boards, so this is what we call our collection boards, and there's all different types of functionality that we need. Within these collections, we have a section where you can create new collections. So I know everything's going really fast, but we're trying to expose you a lot of the functionality of the product. If we create new collections, we can name it anything we want. So we could name this Partners Webinar. I spelled it right. Partners Webinar. What color we want it. Is it a private, or is it belong to an organization or the brand? And we create this new Partners folder. So I can be scrolling through different fabrics. Let's say we're looking at the Amigo fabric, and there's different, I want to add the Amigo fabric to this folder I just made. We can simply, sorry that I added it to the favorites. We can add this to the, what did I call it? Partners Webinar. Here you see the Partners Webinar, and then it's added. And if I want to do the same thing here, I can click that, and now it's added to the Partners Webinar. And if I go back to the collection board, we type in partners webinar, and those two products that I just clicked as favorites will appear there in that partner webinar. And those products are still available in the collection called Amigo. So it's a very powerful aspect of Swatchbook. Being able to do that is actually create little baskets or collections. I call them baskets of putting different product together. We can take that a step further if we go back, sorry, to the collections and we do partners. We can look at also the collections as a list view. And if I want to share that with somebody, I can simply go to the share functionality. I can type in, the user can be an interior designer. It could be your customers actually sending an email to the consumer that they want to sell to, and they can put those collections in there. And that customer will have the ability to log into Swatchbook and look at those two items. So it has a great sharing functionality. You can share groups of products internally. You can associate them to projects, and it has very rich, deep functionality when it comes to that. And I think once you all become customized to how to use Swatchbook, there's huge value that's going to bring to the whole process. So that is what we call the collection view. I'm now looking at it as a list, but we also look at it as the board view. Once we, if we want to then start browsing fabrics individually, we can go to the library. We have two views. We can look at the library. We can look at it here in the thumbnail view, or we can go back to the roll view. As you can see, the imitation leathers, they look beautiful on the application. Same with all the fabrics. If I want to look at my favorites, I click on the favorites. So these are, I created this folder or I put in my favorites, a good cross section of the different product. So you can see what happens when you see a yarn dyed upholstery, or you see a jacquard. We have plain fabrics. We have the shears. This is our Danzan shear. The shears are also looking fantastic, even in this type of application. And as you can see, there's all different experiences of looking at the fabrics, designs, and etc. So this is a satin. So you really see the shiny characteristics of the satin. And again, when we're in this view, we can go back and we can look at them all as a thumbnail view. And as you can see, it really looks fantastic. The colors are vibrant. So that's a basic navigation of the different functions around to find products, etc. We do have deep dive functions. So for example, if we go into hunting, as you'll here, you see the focus just on that specific SKU. We have all different data related to it. So if we go to tags, we can see that's FiberGuard, that's upholstery. These are all the different standards it meets. And the smart tags are just relevant to which digital 3D models they're associated to. We have all the data there. So here we have the composition, we have the performance, the martindale. So all other information can be found there. And towards the end of this year or next year, we plan to have this all focused more on this screen where you can see all the data in one place. You have the ability to remove it from favorites, add it to collections. You can scan a QR code. That's another function, which samples in the future will have a QR code where you can scan the sample and it'll bring you up to the screen in the product. You can find this button everywhere, which is a sample request. You click the sample request and the user will be able to request a sample or the whole color line, for instance, write some notes, and that sample request will be routed back to you as partners to follow it up. So we've incorporated, or it's incorporated, the ability to request a sample. We believe alongside Swatchbook, the memo service will become more and more important as a tool to serve Swatchbook. Now you go to the magic. When we really want to see what magic happens within Swatchbook, if we open up this screen, you can see a big thumbnail of the product, but we also have all different renders and content here related to that product. If you want to see the full repeat, if you want to see the roll view, and then we have the 3D model view. So if you click into the 3D model, you open the 3D model, And this, you have complete control of the 3D model at your fingertips in your screen. How is this relevant to our customers, designers, shops, architects, everybody else? You can see the actual product you are buying. You can see what that fabric looks like on a sofa. If it's a dining chair or if it's an armchair, we have all these different possibilities to see it. And you can spin around, you can zoom in, you can actually see the fabric. You can change the light colors, the lighting. So is it a sunny day? Is it a retail environment? Is it a night environment? And then you can go back to studio and you can zoom in really, really close and see the fabric, the texture. For live 3D rendering, this is really, really top quality. And then we have the same for sofas, so we can load the sofa. Sorry, it's slow because of the connection, I think. Yeah, there we go. So we can zoom in to the sofa, we can spin it around, you can really see the details. Again, we can change the light source, and we can really see the different functionality. You can really get up close and see the fabric in great detail. You can take a little angle of the sofa and you can actually take a snapshot of it, and it downloads actually a snapshot into your computer of the image you've just taken. So when you hit this camera, you take a snapshot and then immediately you have that downloaded into your system. So that is the 3D functionality. It's fantastic. It's a great experience. We will be loading more and more models up into this space, so to visualize different types of sofas, etc. Then one last feature I'm going to show you as part of the Swatchbook introduction. If we go back to navigation, there's a lot more functionality. I don't want to go too deep too soon, but we have full search functionality. So this is similar to the type of searching we have in Bruegel. If we want to look for different colors, if we want to click on, is it a blackout, is it a chenille? So all the different metadata that we want to search for product is available here and easy to use. So I will just give a quick example. Let's say we're looking for a red fabric. If we're looking for a red fabric and the customer wants a red fabric and it's got to have linen in it. So we can just type in here, linen. And if I click that, over here, we have all the products that we have in our line in the 10,000 SKUs that are red and they have linen at some point in their composition. If we go back to the roll view, they can really get a very close look at the product. So there is 25 products here which are red and with a linen. And the customer here can already, instead of ordering 10 memos of these different items based on different things, they can make a much more informed decision, we believe, and maybe with 2 or 3 choices from Swatchbook, actually nail what they need. So the whole point is try to make people, when people are selecting product, they can really find it much easier. So I'm going to stop the presentation here on the web version. I'm just thinking to myself, oh, is there some functionality that I haven't shown you? It has very flexible things. So for example, we can do select here, we can select different products, and then we can look at the actions and we can say, okay, well, what do we want to do? Do we want to add it to a collection? Do we want to set different categories? Not all users will be able to access all this functionality, but there is some ways to fast select different products, collections, and group them together. So that is the web version of Swatchbook. So I'm going to quickly show you. I'm going to quickly show you what it looks like on a iPad. The experience on an iPad and an iPhone is an amazing experience. It's really, when you look at it, I've got a 9-minute demo here, which we'll share afterwards, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing right now in this video. But you have a lot of the similar views and functionality. The navigation is obviously a bit different, but here are your board views. So you have your board views, which you can navigate through your board views. You can click on an item, and then you can go to your roll view, which is coming up in a second. And when you go into the roll view, the experience on an iPad is really unbelievable. Now all the rolls are going, and when you start scrolling on an iPad or an iPhone, you get the whole screen real estate is covered by the product. So you can really see the product, using, not wasting any space on the screen for navigation bars, other things, and the scrolling experience is really great. And then another great functionality on the iPad, I'm going to skip these parts. This is just how you share, how you order samples. And again, you can search on collections. So this is, I think, where I needed to get to. So you have a whole function when you're working with the iPad. It's called the pinch out function. It's not over there. One moment. So when you're scrolling through the different roles, you will be able to, sorry, we'll come to it later. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So when you're scrolling through the different roles, what happens is you can pinch out, and then you get the fabric on the full screen real estate. So your whole iPad is covered by the fabric, and then you can just flip the fabric with your finger from one side to the next and scroll through the collection just like you're scrolling through a book. It's a fantastic functionality. You really see the whole, the fabric detail and everything perfectly within that. So that's just a quick introduction to the iPad, what Swatchbook looks like on the iPad. There's a lot of navigation work to do. You have the whole 3D modeling functionality, just like we showed you on the desktop. What is also great is you have the whole ability to do the augmented reality function. So if we go into the augmented reality function, this is a little demo that we've made of the augmented reality. Excuse the shaky camera, but as you can see, that's the chair covered in one of the fabrics sitting in the room, and you can look at it from all different angles. You can move around, and the quality we get is really, really fantastic. It's such a great experience to be able to see the product in real, get quite close to it. You can move the product around the room. So you can spin the product, you can change the angle, you can put the product in a different place, and then you can go and look at the product from all different types of angles, etc. So that is Swatchbook. I've showed you the desktop version. I've showed you the iPad app, and this is the augmented reality functionality that exists within it. So overall, we've been using Swatchbook now at Bru for, let's say, 4 months. It's taken us quite a long time to get all the data aggregated, but we're virtually ready to go. That's why we're introducing this to you all. And we're really excited by the functionality, what it can do, combined with all the other digital activities that are taking place at Bru. So it's a really exciting product. And as you get to learn the functionality, one needs a couple of hours to really understand how to navigate and how to use everything, but it's a great product. So at this point, I'm going to invite Mark to join us. Mark is our sales director in Home Fabrics in South Africa. He's been quite involved in a lot of the workshops and pre-work we've done in identifying what is required for all architects, designers, interior designers, shops, manufacturers that our partners are working with. And he would just like to say a few words based on Swatchbook. Mark?
Thanks, Jace. I think as I wasn't around on the 20th of July 1969 when the first man went on the world, I think this has just as much weight in the textile industry launching this today. It's a super exciting platform. As you said, I've been privy to experience the background, getting everybody on board on Swatchbook, and it's just another incredible innovation that being a partner of Bru, we were able to be part of. It's cost effective, it's efficient, it's inspirational, it inspires our clients, it gives us more access, more time, a few clicks of a button, and we're sharing our collections. Some of our, we can now share 10,000 SKUs of fabric in realistic resolution with a few clicks of a button. Not only can we see our collections in 3D format, but we can see them in realistic images that Jason's just showed us on the furniture renders. Many clients often, especially with COVID now, but not necessarily, a lot of people are starting to work more from home. A lot of our clients are mothers. They have less time during the day to be working on interior design schemes. We're busy with calls, WhatsApps, office admin, and a lot of our clients actually process their orders, work on their schemes and process their orders after hours when our offices are closed. Now our designers and architects can select red linen curtaining, they can request memos, in certain colors. Sample books are becoming a little bit outdated. Not only are they heavy, but take up a lot of office space, they can become quite cumbersome. And now we can really just work off our, very excited to say, our phones very easily and in a smooth, streamlined process. Our reps are also able to work much smarter, which I'm very excited about, because they can put collections together and schemes together for their clients that are on Swatchbook and send this to their clients using the Swatchbook platform. Sorry, Siri doesn't know how to respond to me there. So very exciting. I think what's very important to also note is it's not just a tool that we talk to, well, we just send to our clients and expect them to be part of. It's really a conversational tool. We need to encourage, inspire, share it with our clients, get them to trust us, get them onto the platform, explain how it works, how it's time efficient, cost efficient, not labor intensive, and really lets us, being the fabric supplier, be the first on the customer's boards. I think a customer can start requesting fabrics any time of the day, whether it's if they're wanting to put their own collection together on Swatchbook or actually request memo cutting. So there's a hell of a lot to be excited about. It's basically a 24-hour access to a showroom. Another really cool function is, as we launch collections during the course of the year, at a click of the button, the full collection will be available on Swatchbook. Often our customers want the books, we don't have the books available, they're with the wrong customer, they're not ready at the time of the launch. I mean, we all know the challenges of the industry. Click of a button, it's on the customer's phone, and it's ready to go on the boards. This is a perfect tool to work alongside our TwinBru functionality, which we have launched recently, to just work directly with the designers, architects, retailers, specifiers, and procurement departments. So from my side, I'm pretty excited to get this going today, and just a big thanks to Yazan and the Bru team for this good opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. That was a great insight from our partners' perspective of what's going on. I see there's been some questions that Yazan and Gary have been answering. What we did is we did do a little pre-cook of the Q&A, which we actually identified what the three biggest questions we've experienced so far. And as Bru are early adopters, some of our customers will immediately respond with their concerns before focusing on the opportunities. And some people probably are bored of me saying this, but I'm going to say this, and it's a quote from Henry Ford, who was the founder of the Ford Motor Car Company, who practically invented the motor car. And the common phrase a quote that he once made is, he said, "If I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." So that is a classic quote in terms of we are at the cutting edge of fabric visualization. Nobody has experienced these tools. Nobody is using these tools in any significant form. So we have to make it happen. It's our job to go lead the market, take all of these interior designers, retail shops, manufacturers, and that embrace the digital journey. Everybody's open to the digital journey. We just got to lead them down the path. So we have got a couple of questions that we're going to do, and I'm going to actually address this to Gary. I've been in the fabric business, Gary, for 20 years, and you can't You can't buy a fabric unless you can touch it. Okay.
Bullshit.
Okay. All right.
Okay. No. So of course that's one of that is one of the, let's say, the legacy baggage that we walk around with in our business, saying that you can't buy fabric without touching it. Well, times are changing, and I'll give you a personal example. When I used to be, my brother and I don't know, most of you know, were water ski champions back in the day. And we were sponsored by Nashua in South Africa, which was a copy machine company. And they came out with the fax. And they had one at our house. And my mom said to my dad, "Oh, that's an amazing machine." He says, "Yes, but you could never use that in the fabric business, because in those days we were using telexes, and faxes came. They were the biggest thing that actually revolutionized the world, where you could see a document in one side of the world and it could come up on the other side of the world. And that's obviously evolved now to 4G and 5G, and we can see instantly. We can see those replications of documents and images and visuals on the other side of the world in milliseconds. And that's the same thing that's going to happen within our business. Don't think that our business is just a feel and touch business and will never change, because most retailers thought that about all different products, and then Amazon came along and Alibaba came along, and they have crushed through disruption and through giving consumers a better buying experience. They have absolutely been crushed. So an incumbent way of thinking is never going to be able to sustain itself in our industry. And that's why it's so important that for us to have very good digital materials that clearly illustrate the fabrics, look so well that you can almost feel it. And then we'll be adding some additional tools to Swatchbook, like videos of the touch and feel, and also product presentations to enhance the whole process. And it's not a fact that samples will just completely be replaced. But if you consider the cost of sampling, the cost of showrooms, the environmental impact that all this waste has on us, there has to be another solution. And that solution is digital materials. And for sure, the younger generation understand that. And us old people have to make that transformation into being able to work more digitally in every form, not just in fabrics, but in all type of materials used in interiors. So I don't know if that's answered enough of the question.
I can't rebuff you on that.
Okay,
I'll have to agree. I'll have to agree. For once, I'll agree with you. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the next frequently asked question we have: how come the colors look different, Yazan? Why are the colors looking different in the application? This is no good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a unique question to this industry. We get the same question from apparel and footwear and accessories. They care about color, I'm sure, as much as any designer will care about color. The simplest, I think the simplest answer to always start with is to ask another question, is if you were holding a piece of fabric, and obviously with home goods, you're not moving the sofa with you, but with apparel, you're moving around with these fabrics from inside to outside, from sunny to overcast, and the colors change all the time. There's a perception behind it. That's the whole science behind color shifting. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the white gold or / black blue dress that was circling online. But that's not too different from digital. It's the same thing. Your displays are different fundamentally. There's a reason we started with, building stuff on iOS is because Apple products, for example, have a really good way of representing color, but they're not immune to color shifting and changing. In the same way that if you had a swatch and you were closer to an incandescent light bulb versus a fluorescent one versus the window versus a sunny day outside, the colors simply shift and change. And the technology with new displays is the same thing. Your OLED screens, when they shift, they have a different hue on them versus when you're looking at them directly. On top of all of this, a lot of us have phones that will color shift as the day ends to make them less stressful to our eyes by shifting simply the color. So fundamentally, it's happening. What's good about this is that we still can contain any information on dye or color representation, so that when you as designers look at this, thanks for reminding me about this, Jason. The color just fundamentally shifts and changes, and we try to provide a light background versus a dark background. It depends on what you're looking at. But even in this slide that has both different backgrounds but the same materials, your eyes fundamentally will look at and represent these colors slightly differently based on that. If they were color backgrounds, it'll be even more of a difference. So we definitely understand the need for color accuracy, and we try to represent it as closely as possible with the technology that we have available. And we also provide other tools that you mentioned and showed before, like, well, let's see what this looks like outside. Let's see what this looks like inside. The reason for that is to give you more confidence in that what you're looking at is accurate. But at the end of the day, this is, as Gary said, it was not eliminating all the samples, but it's reducing the amount of sample needs, at least in the earlier stages and maybe in the later stages, and bringing back color at the end, especially if you know what the color code is or what the dye is or what the Pantone is or whatever it is that you're using for color information.
Okay,
I
great.
hope that answers the question.
No, thanks. Thanks for the insight. Thanks for the insight. Just a question which will come up. It's a commonly asked question is, right now, Swatchbook is available on an iPad, iPhone, and in your web browser. I demonstrated the iPad and the web browser today. The experience on an iPhone is pretty much similar. In Q1, we're aiming to launch an Android version of the app, so that will take care of the Android issue. We know from research with customers, it's 50-50 in terms of who has an Android and who has an iOS. Those who do not have an Android device can access Swatchbook through a web browser, and it's still, once you've learned it, a great experience too. So there's still a lot of use. Those non-Apple customers can still have access to the system through a browser. And as we move along, we will make sure we cover all the different bases there. So it'll take time to onboard all the customers onto the application. Therefore, obviously, when it comes to onboarding customers from your end, you start with the Apple users. And by the time you've done that round and got all those customers up and running it, then we move on to the next phase. Or you do what Yazan did, and he convinced me to buy an iPad, okay? Because I've been an Android guy all my life. So for Swatchbook, I bought an iPad, okay? And Gary's smiling all the way because he's been pushing me on it for years. Okay, so everyone, I don't know, Gary, are there any questions that need a specific answer? I haven't been monitoring the questions. Yes.
I think that we've nearly answered everything. I mean, there's one or two maybe that can't be answered right now, so we'll have to check those.
Yes.
And we'll follow up. I mean, there's interesting comments that came up. We'll just follow those up, and we'll,
Okay. All right. I'll hand the floor over to Gary. He's going to give closing statements. So, Gary.
Thank you. Okay. So, as I said in the beginning, like, we are definitely at the cutting edge of using the digital fabrics in visualization and making visualizations on all the products that actually could be used for interior furnishings. We focused a lot in this presentation maybe on upholstery, but I just want to emphasize that it's also for drapery and other type of accessories. So, you know, as time goes on, we'll add more and more to the the Swatchbook output of different products, and draperies will be coming soon. At the moment, the best replication of drapery to use is the ball view. So thank you everybody for joining. It's been a delight. We went 15 minutes over time, but we get so excited and passionate about the subject. You just have to take that passion and run with it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all
everybody.
for joining. Have a great day. Thank you, Yazan, for staying up so late, and everybody else. Bye.
Thank you so much.